I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings by Angelou. Chapter 9. A year later, our father came to Stamps without warning. It was awful for Bailey and me to encounter the reality one abrupt morning. We, or at any rate I, had built such elaborate fantasies about him and the illusory mother that seeing him in the flesh shredded my inventions like a hand yank on a paper chain. He arrived in front of the store in a clean gray car. He must have stopped just outside of town to wipe it in preparation for the grand entrance. Bailey, who knew such things, said it was a DeSoto. His bigness shocked me. His shoulders were so wide I thought he'd have trouble getting in the door. He was taller than anyone I had seen, and if he wasn't fat, which I knew he wasn't, then he was fat-like. His clothes were too small, too. They were tighter and woollier than was customary in Stamps, and he was blindingly handsome. Mama cried, "Bailey, my baby." Great God, Bailey, and Uncle Willie stuttered, "Bailey." My brother said, "Hot dog and damn, it's him. It's our daddy." And my 7-year-old world humpy-dumped, never to be put back together again. His voice rang like a metal dipper hitting a bucket, and he spoke English, proper English, like the school principal and even better. Our father sprinkled ERs, ers, and even errors in his sentences as liberally as he gave out his twisted mouth smiles. His lips pulled not down, like Uncle Willie's, but to the side, and his head lay on one side or the other, but never straight on the end of his neck. He had the air of a man who did not believe what he heard or what he himself was saying. He was the first cynic I had met. "So, this is Daddy's, little man. Boy, anybody can tell you, that you, look like me." He had Bailey in one arm and me in the other. "And Daddy's baby girl. You're, been good children, haven't you? I guess I would, heard about it, from Santa Claus." I was so proud of him, it was hard to wait for the gossip to get around that he was in town. Wouldn't the kids be surprised at how handsome our daddy was, and that he loved us enough to come down to Stamps to visit? Everyone could tell from the way he talked and from the car and the clothes that he was rich and maybe had a castle out in California. I later learned that he had been a doorman at Santa Monica's plush Breakers Hotel. Then the possibility of being compared with him occurred to me, and I didn't want anyone to see him. Maybe he wasn't my real father. Bailey was his son, true enough, but I was an orphan that they had picked up to provide Bailey with company. I was always afraid when I found him watching me and wished I could grow small like Tiny Tim. Sitting at the table one day, I held the fork in my left hand and pierced a piece of fried chicken. I put the knife through the second time, as we had been strictly taught, and began to saw against the bone. My father laughed a rich, rolling laugh, and I looked up. He imitated me, both elbows going up and down. "Is Daddy's baby going to fly away?" Mama laughed, and Uncle Willie too, and even Bailey snickered a little. Our father was proud of his sense of humor. For 3 weeks, the store was filled with people who had gone to school with him or heard about him. The curious and envious milled around, and he strutted, throwing ers and ers all over the place and under the sad eyes of Uncle Willie. Then one day he said he had to get back to California. I was relieved. My world was going to be emptier and drier, but the agony of having him intrude into every private second would be gone. And the silent threat that had hung in the air since his arrival, the threat of his leaving someday, would be gone. I wouldn't have to wonder whether I loved him or not, or have to answer, Does Daddy's baby want to go to California with Daddy? Bailey had told him that he wanted to go, but I had kept quiet. Mama was relieved too, although she had a good time cooking special things for him and showing her California son off to the peasants of Arkansas. But Uncle Willie was suffering under our father's bombastic pressure, and in mother bird fashion, Mama was more concerned with her crippled offspring than the one who could fly away from the nest. He was going to take us with him. The knowledge buzzed through my days and made me jump unexpectedly like a jack-in-the-box. Each day I found some time to walk to the pond where people went to catch sun, perch, and striped bass. Excuse me. The hours I chose to go were too early or too late for fishermen, so I had the area to myself. I stood on the bank of the green dark water, and my thoughts skidded like the water spiders. Now this way, and now that, now the other. Should I go with my father? Should I throw myself into the pond and not be able to swim? Join the body of L.C., the boy who had drowned last summer? Should I beg Mama to let me stay with her? I could tell her that I'd take over Bailey's chores and do my own as well. Did I have the nerve to try life without Bailey? I couldn't decide on any move, so I recited a few Bible verses and went home. Mama cut down a few giveaways that had been traded to her by white women's maids and sat long nights in the dining room sewing jumpers and skirts for me. She looked pretty sad, but each time I found her watching me, she'd say, as if I had already disobeyed, "You be a good girl now, you hear? Don't you make people think I didn't raise you right, you hear?" She would have been more surprised than I had she taken me in her arm. She would have been more surprised than I had she taken me in her arms and wept at losing me. Her world is bordered on all sides with work, duty, religion, and her place. I don't think she ever knew that a deep, brooding love hung over everything she touched. In later years, I asked her if she loved me, and she brushed me off with, "God is love. Don't worry about whether you're being a good girl. Then He will love you." I sat in the back of the car with Dad's leather suitcases and our cardboard boxes. Although the windows were rolled down, the smell of fried chicken and sweet potato pie lay unmoving, and there wasn't enough room to stretch. Whenever he thought about it, Daddy asked, "Are you comfortable back there, Daddy's baby?" He never waited to hear my answer, which was, "Yes, sir," before he'd resume his conversation with Bailey. He and Bailey told jokes, and Bailey laughed all the time, put out Dad's cigarettes, and held one hand on the steering wheel when Dad said, "Come on, boy, help me drive this thing." After I got tired of passing through the same towns over and over and seeing the empty-looking houses, small and unfriendly, I closed myself off to everything but the kissing sounds of the tires on the pavement and the steady moan of the motor. I was certainly very vexed with Bailey. There was no doubt that he was trying... He is trying... Did I miss a page? To butter up Dad. He even started to laugh like him, a Santa Claus Jr. with his ho, ho, ho. "How are you going to feel seeing your mother? Going to be happy?" he asked Bailey, but it penetrated the foam I had packed around my senses. Were we going to see her? I thought we were going to California. I was suddenly terrified. Suppose she laughed at us the way he did. What if she had other children now, whom she kept with her? I said, "I want to go back to Stamps." Dad laughed. "You mean Daddy's baby doesn't want to go to St. Louis to see your mother? She's not going to eat you up, you know." He turned to Bailey, and I looked at the side of his face. He was so unreal to me, I felt as if I were watching a doll talk. "Bailey, Jr., ask your sister why she wants to go back to Stamps." I lost my place. Oh, there. He sounded more like a white man than a Negro. Perhaps he was the only brown-skinned white man in the world. It would be just my luck that the only one would turn out to be my father. But Bailey was quiet for the first time since we left Stamps. I guess he was thinking too about seeing Mother. How could an 8-year-old contain that much fear? He swallows and holds it behind his tonsils. He tightens his feet and closes the fear between his toes. He contracts his buttocks and pushes it up behind the prostate gland. Junior, cat got your tongue? What do you think your mother will say when I tell her children didn't want to see her? The thought that he would tell her shook me and Bailey at the same time. He leaned over the back of the seat. My, it's Mother, dear. You know, you want to see Mother, dear, don't you? Dad laughed and pitched in his seat and asked himself, I guess, what will she say to that? I stopped crying since there was no chance to get back to Stamps and Mama. Bailey wasn't going to back me up, I could tell, so I decided to shut up and dry up and wait for whatever seeing Mother Dear was going to bring. St. Louis was a new kind of hot and a new kind of dirty. My memory had no pictures of the crowded together soot-covered buildings. For all I knew, we were being driven to hell and my father was the delivering devil. Only in strict emergencies did Bailey allow me to speak. Pig Latin to him in front of adults, but I had to take the chance that afternoon. I didn't read that very well. Only in strict emergencies did Bailey allow me to speak Pig Latin to him in front of adults, but I had to take the chance that afternoon. We'd spun around the same corner, I was sure, about 50 times. I asked Bailey, Uday, okay, ink they, is they, ether fe, or Uday, uye, ink they, at they, iwe, are earing bay, idke, apedne, Bailey said. My, we're in St. Louis and we're going to see Mother Dear, don't worry. Dad chuckled and said, Ooh-hey, oodway, antway, oot-hey, idke, apne, ooye, oodday, ooye, inkthay, ooye, ar, indlay, egbe, ilinch, drinch, gay. I thought that my brother and his friends had created Pig Latin. To hear my father speak it didn't startle me as much as it angered. It was simply another case of the trickiness of adults when children were concerned. Another case in point of the grown-ups' betrayal. To describe my mother would be to write about a hurricane in its perfect power, or the climbing, falling colors of a rainbow. We'd been received by her mother and had waited on the edge of our seats in the over-furnished living room. Dad talked easily with our grandmother as white folks talk to blacks, unembarrassed and unapologetic. We were both fearful of Mother's coming and impatient of her delay. It is remarkable how much truth there is in the two expressions, struck dumb and love at first sight. My mother's beauty assailed me. Her red lips, Mama said it was a sin to wear lipstick, split to show even white teeth, and her fresh butter-colored looked see-through clean. Her smile widened her mouth beyond her cheeks, beyond her ears, and seemingly through the walls of the street outside. I was struck dumb, and I knew immediately why she had sent me away. She was too beautiful to have children. I've never seen a woman as pretty as she was, she who was called Mother. Bailey, on his part, fell instantly and forever in love. I saw his eyes shining like hers. He had forgotten the loneliness in the nights when we had cried together because we were unwanted children. He had never left her warm side or shared the icy wind of solitude with me. She was his Mother Dear, and I resigned myself to his condition. They were both more alike than she and I, or even he and I, and they both had physical beauty and personality, so I figured it figured. Our father left St. Louis a few days later for California, and I was neither glad nor sorry. He was a stranger, and if he chose to leave us with a stranger, it was all of one piece. Next will be number 10, which I have already read.